Okay, shalom everybody. Welcome back. Shavua Tov. We are now taking with us the light of Chanukah and applying it to our lesson. Just an amazing insight. I think it's an amazing insight. I think you can understand this. In a candle, there's three factors. There's the oil, or the wax, whatever, the fuel going into the wick, and the flame. Now, the goal is to have a balanced flame, not too big and not too tiny, a normal flame. Now, to have a normal flame, you need two requirements. Number one, that the oil should be good quality oil, and number two, that the wick also should be a good quality wick. What if now you have good quality oil? Fine. So we have to now see what constitutes to be a good quality wick. A good quality wick, which in Hebrew is called a ptil, is that there has to it's called a ptil because it's winded. Ptilim, naftuli, like Naphtali. Why it's called Naphtali? Because she wrestled. She said, or Rachel, when she gave the name for the child born to Zilpa, Naphtali, Naftuli Elokim Niftalti, right? I wrestled with my sister in my davening. So ptilim is like wrestling. It's like how it looks like an actual wick is it's not just one cord, but a few cords of whatever material. If it's flax, if it's cotton, whatever it is, but they're like meshed together, but not too tight. If it's too tight, then there's no room for the oil to get in. Okay? What's needed is that it's tightened good enough so that when the initial fire that you light the wick begins to burn, so it starts melting the initial part of the wick, but that melting enables now that the oil that's in the actual candle to have enough room to go into the wick and be burnt. What's being burnt in a wick, by the way? It's the oil. But the oil can't be burnt directly. It has to be burnt on something. So the material that it's using to be burnt is the wick, but the wick isn't actually being burnt. It's the oil being burnt, but using the platform of the wick. So what does that take place on the top of the wick? You have the burnt part, where the fire already did a good job in altering the wick into a burnt part of material, but it's not burnt totally. It's burnt enough that the oil can go in and then make a fire on it, okay? But that's dependent that the wick is done properly. So too in this lesson, we want to shine the light, the infinite light, the Or Ein Sof. The Or Ein Sof requires two factors. It requires that a person has a strong and good ptil wick, and the oil. The oil is being supplied from heaven. The oil is called Mishach Revut Kucha. It's the holy da'at. The da'at that Hashem shines into the world. The mitzvah performance, the connection to God is the idea of the oil. That's not a problem. That's Hashem's part. Okay? What's our job is that we have a strong ptil. Now, it's our job, but really it's not. Heaven, when they want to shine light into a person, when they want to give person light in his life, and they see the person has potential for that light, what do you think? Don't bother him? If Hashem heaven sees that there's potential for a person to have light, so they try to build on him a strong enough wick. If the wick is too weak, so too much oil goes in, or it's too much of a flame, or if it's too strong and not too much oil is going in, so it's a smaller flame. We want a perfect flame, okay? In heaven, when they see the person is qualified to receive light, so they want to help, and he doesn't have yet a strong enough wick, so they help him to build it. And that's what's called the obstacles of life, the miniot, the setbacks, the difficulties, the pain, the suffering, whatever you want to call it. All of that is to make a strong enough ptil, not too strong. We don't choke the person. We don't make it like that he's squeezed like it's a solid block of material, because then the oil can't go in. It has to be tight and strong, but with room that the oil can go in and then be burnt. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, if it's too much, then the oil won't go in. So heaven knows how much to tighten a person, to make ptilim, to make him into a wick until just enough oil can go in, it's enough, and it'll burn brightly, B'ezrat Hashem. So this basically is how life is. All life is about wick and oil, wicks and oil. You want fire, you want the light, you want the infinite light, you want simcha in your life, you want meaning in your existence, you want a purpose, you want happiness, you want all these good things, that's the flame. But for that to work, there has to be a good balance of the oil and the wick. Okay? The oil and the wick are two opposites. Two opposites. The oil is, sure, it's material, but it's fuel. It's fueling the fire. Now, for spiritual fuel to exist in the world, you need a strong vessel, keli. The keli in this case is the wick. Now, what makes a good keli? What makes a good keli is how much it's physical. The more a keli, because it's the opposite. You have a kli, a vessel, and you have the light filling up the vessel, or the spirituality. Okay, in order for the spirituality to rest in a place, you need a very strong vessel. And now the vessel is the exact opposite of the light. Two opposites. Because if it was the same thing, there'd be no vessel here. The vessel has to be 180% opposite of the light or the spirit, the material within it. So the more a person is in physicality, believe it or not, then from that point, he's ready to ascend to spirituality. This explains why we go through so much setbacks in life. Sometimes it's just unbearable, and most of the time it's just crazy what we're going through. And we're not trying to say, okay, so that's the case, so go into do chas shalom averot. We're not saying that. But from heaven, they test a person so much that they purposely make him to fall into wherever he's falling into. Why all of that? To get him to a certain point of physicality that they want to take place. Once that's done, then it's ready for the fuel. It's enough for the oil to go in and to shine bright the light. That's all of life in a summary. That's the challenges we're facing, the difficulties, the in and outs. Mate v'la mate, we spoke about last week. In and out. In and out. What's the in and out? It's in order to build a strong ptil, a strong vessel, and strong enough that then the oil can go in and then it can burn brightly and has the right balance in the burning. Okay? Rav Nosson says this is the idea of what we say in Lecha Dodi Friday night. Sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila. Sof ma'aseh, which means the end of the world of Asiya. The most physical you can get, the most physicality. This world is so physical, it's exact opposite of Hashem's ruchniut, the spiritual, the godliness. This world is the exact opposite. To go out to eat, the restaurants, the malls, the movies, enjoying, and it is not. There's no spirituality at all in this world in itself. Our job is to connect this world with the spirituality. How do we do that? It's asiyat, mitzvot, besimcha. Three keywords. Asiyah, that doing, and you can only do in this physical world. A person who's dead can't do anymore. Only person who's in this world can do, that's asiyah. And then the connector is the mitzvah, the tzitzit, the tefillin, the bracha, the tzedakah, the Shabbat, the Yom Kippur, the challah, the kosher meat, the shechita. Okay, that's the mitzvah.
Tzitzit says petilim, taslecha.
Right, petilim. Petilim is tzitzit. Yeah. Petilim is connected to tzitzit big time. Rav Nosson brings this example of tzitzit, doing the mitzvah of tzitzit besimcha. He says it a few times on this discourse. You do a mitzvah like tzitzit, you pay nothing for it, and you say a bracha, I put the Torah, and now you're connected to the highest level. He says, is there any greater simcha than that? What's tzitzit? It's wool. It's nothing. It's tassels. Little wool, and yet it connects you to the highest of levels. Crazy, huh? That's exactly what it
That's the patil for the light that you just said in the beginning.
Right.
You just said you have to have oil and a patil.
Right. That's the idea. So I lost track. You got me to lost track. Oh, I hate when it happens. There's the asiyah, there's the mitzvah, and there's the way to elevate it. The way to do the job is besimcha. It's Rav Nosson says it's so important to do the mitzvot besimcha. He says basically that maybe. Michela, הלו, רבותיי, מחילה, הלו? סליחה, יש לנו שיר קבוע כאן כל יום שלישי בשעה כזאת, באישור הגבאים, אז זה מוקלט ומוסר, תודה. אוקיי. So the way to do this, to actually then get the light, the flame in, is the simcha. That's all is left to you to do, is to do what you're doing besimcha. That's what's gonna elevate. That's what's gonna rectify. That's what's gonna bring up and do all the good things b'ezrat Hashem. But it's difficult because you're an asiyah, which is totally detachment, and then you have the mitzvah, which is the connector. So what's left to get the fire lit is the simcha. Okay, I have the asiyah. That's like the wick I said, right? The mitzvah is like the oil. So now you have to burn it. You have to ignite the fire. The fire igniting it to flame the infinite light is the simcha that you're doing. Okay, with this idea, that means there is simcha before lighting the candle, and it's also simcha after lighting the candle. There's simcha that's needed as a prerequisite to get things moving, and then there's also the next level of simcha, which before that happens, you also have another pushback, another difficulty. There's levels of pushbacks and setbacks, all for the next level of simcha. But this, in a summary, is basically all of life. The wick, the oil, and the flame. That's your whole life. The wick is this world, the being twisted and turned and everything, and you begin to wonder, Hashem, until when? Wait, Hashem, what's your limit? You're squeezing me, Hashem, but how much are you squeezing me? What's your limit, Hashem? Ad matai. Until where do you want to push me, Hashem, that you've pushed me to the limit, and from there you feel, okay, now is a good time to put in the oil, but Hashem, I feel like there's nothing left. I'm not happy. I'm not holding on. I'm having difficulties, but Hashem says, no, I know you can hold on. I know I can get you at a place that I want you to be. And once that happens, then we put in the oil, and the oil flows in, and then anything you do besimcha at that point burns properly, not too much and not too little. Okay, this is basically all of life. You can look at life like that: the wick, the flame, the oil. Those are the three ingredients of life. The wick being this world, the oil being the mitzvot, and then the flame is the simcha, which leads to more light and more and then access to the infinite light. That's all of life in a nutshell. Okay. So we're continuing with where we left off, paragraph number 8, where Rabbi Nachman Rabbeinu is going into the idea of the Keter, the whole idea of the Keter, which is so massive. Okay, this again, Rabbeinu is touching upon the deepest section of the Zohar. I just saw today how the Ben Ish Chai talks about this section. He said some Mekubal sent to him. He says, I see it from the wording of this paragraph from the Zohar, Parshat Noach, page 65a. That it's deeper than the Idra Rabbah, deeper than the Idra Zuta, which are deep parts of the Zohar. And as someone who can't explain this, knows no Kabbalah at all whatsoever. This is the main thing of the... And here Rabbeinu takes this little paragraph and he opens it up. So we're going to do a quick summary, because we're always, taking time to get back to these classes. But we'll get to the point that we want to get to today, okay? So from the beginning of paragraph 8, he says like this. And when a person makes and rectifies the settling and organizing of the mind. And Rabbeinu is so careful about this wording. Rabbeinu is so repetitive on saying meyashev mesader and meyashev mesader, as if to say this is the main thing. The main thing is that the mind is being settled. The mind can only be settled when you're able to stop the mind from running. When you stop the mind from running, then you can settle it. And when the mind is settled, that's when you can do with it what you need to do to enable for it to have light. Okay? So when a person makes properly and rectifies properly the Me'ashem Esder, which is done to doing the mitzvot b'simcha, Shewa Keter Karaoi, which is the Keter, as we mentioned earlier, and he does it properly, in other words, is able to accept what's happening in the restriction done, okay? And the mind is pursuing to perceive the infinite light, okay? And the Keter, which is the Me'ashem Esader, it's preventing the intellect from advancing. In order to settle the mind, the intellect. So now through this, through the person's mind trying to run forward, but then being prevented, it wants to go up. It's running to go forward, but it can't because the Keter is stopping it. So it's like two directions, right? Radifa and Me'akev together. So what happens at that point? As I makeh mochin b'me'ashev v'mesader, the mind bumps into, hits into the Keter, which is called the settling and organizing of the mind. And this creates what's called chambers for the infinite light. This is what allows a person to have chambers for the infinite light, to have clarity. You see, this is like Rabbeinu is telling you, there's a way to gain clarity and light and hope for any darkness. If you do this process, nothing will be concealed from you. Nothing will be hidden. Okay? You know, like in this world, they say, oh, there's no solution for this, there's no solution for that. So you laugh, you say, but we have a way how to have access to everything. And nothing can be concealed from us. You know, like for the doctors say, okay, there's no cure for that cancer, there's no cure for diabetes, and if you're stuck like everybody else, if you're in situations like that, say it's an health issue, or it's a shalom bite issue, where standard we know already we've seen this hundreds of times, and a divorce is chas shalom imminent, or you see signs in a child not learning well in cheder or in yeshiva, and you see the signs, he's a lost case. I already see it before it happens. Okay, so that's how the world thinks of fatal crashes. They say, you can't do anything. Here, Rabbeinu says there is way to access a light that nothing bars clarity. Okay? It requires redifa me'akev though. It's running and being bounced back. This creates now hechal, for a chamber, a kli, not just for any light, but for the infinite light, which means clarity in whatever you're looking for in life, you can get this way. This is how you get clarity. The doctor said no. The rabbis said no. The marriage counselor said no. The chinuch advisor said no. The health doctor said no. Everyone says no, no, no. But here Rabbeinu says, if you don't want to settle for that, and you want hope, and you really believe that it exists, so this is the way to get to it. If you build hechalot, kelim, for this infinite light. How? By running and being bounced back. That together creates and activates infinite light, which means a clarity that there's no barrier beyond it. In other words, whatever you need clarity in life for, you can get it. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Okay? Now, even though you now are creating these chambers, they are not la yadiya, v'la yada. They're not known, and they don't make themselves known. In other words, you don't have anything in your hand tangible. It's something which is above your grasp. You create a vessel, but you are so unaware of it. It's so beyond your grasp, but it's happening. It's happening and it takes place. So then now Rabbeinu at this point, like we said, he now opens up the Zohar, which is the source for what he's saying. Kamuva b'Zohar Parshat Noach, like is brought down in the Zohar, Parshat Noach 65a, Imigo hai Prisa birdifa dai machshava, mate vela mate. We spent a lot of time in the last class explaining this. And from within, hai Prisa, this curtain, birdifa dai machshava, with the running of this, another thought. In other words, the machshav is running into the Prisa, inside of it. So it creates what's called mate vela mate. Reaching, but not reaching. In other words, you're touching on something, but not really touching on something. So Rabbeinu is saying, this is the idea of what he just said now. Of now, the redefine ma'akev is basically in this sentence that he just said. From within the Prisa of the running of the machshava, mate vela mate. That's what he said now earlier. So now we're going to explain now finally what is this Prisa. Ufrisa, this curtain, Prisa. It's a funny word, Prisa, hapores. It's a vilon, it's a curtain. Za mesader v'ameyashev. This is another term for the Keter. This is the settling and the organizing of the mind. Notice already he switched around already. Originally Rabbeinu said meyashev mesader, and now he switches around. This is mesader and meyashev. He's always switching. You know, it's still a question. Why do you like switching around? You can't say it's a typing error. You can't say that. He says once settling and then organizing, and now he says organizing and settling. Okay, Zeh mesader v'meyashev, sheu bechinat keter, which is the idea of the keter. Now, why is it called a prisa? Sheu parus bein hane'etzalim lebein ha'ma'atzil, because the keter is like a curtain which is spread between those created, and etzalim, and between the ma'atzir, and between the creator, Hashem, the one who created. There's a separation boundary. Okay? This is so necessary because this is the only way a person can get anywhere in life is only through this Prisa. The Prisa allows you access to everything which is beyond you in life. Okay? Anything that's beyond you in life, the way to connect to it is through this Prisa. How does it work with the Prisa? It's a barrier. And yet, the barrier itself contains your light. What in the world? It's two opposites. We said that's the key. The key is knowing that in the barrier itself, that's where the light is found. That's the tikkun. The tikkun is to be able to shine clarity from the barrier. The wall being sent to you is not just a wall to push you back and that's it. It's a wall to push you back, to have it rectified, and then shine into you the greatest light possible. Because this is what's going to build you more than anything else in life are the setbacks. And that's how Hashem set up the world. So going back to what I wanted to say earlier, Rav Nosson on this explains the idea of sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila. Sof ma'aseh is where a person is so pushed into the olam ha'asiyah, the world of action, which is this world, until he's at the end of it. Sof ma'aseh. He's at the very end. But what's the goal? Is the goal to stay there? Is the goal that, okay, Hashem is pushing me back because I'm not deserving, because I'm not ra'ui, my averot are not letting me to advance, and I'm just a low life, I'm never going to advance? Is that what's actually happening? Or is it a preparation? Sof ma'aseh, I've been thrown to such a low place, such a far place. It's the end of action, the end of the world of action, the end of the world of physicality. What's the goal? It's from here, dafka, to bring into machshavat tchila, the first thought. Machshavat tchila can be translated as the first closest thought to Hashem. You have Hashem, His infinite light, and you have the first level closest to Hashem, which is the Keter holding the mafteach to the infinite light. The Keter, there's the top part of the Keter, which is called the tzachtzachot, are what being the container for this big light. That's called machshavat tchila. The first initial thought of Hashem's creation takes place in the Keter. There's Hashem Himself, the infinite light, and then there's the first stage between Hashem and us, and that's the Keter. That's called machshavat tchila. And the goal is sof ma'aseh, from the gashmiut, from the physicality that I'm stuck in, to connect all the way to the first thought. So with this, Rav Nosson gives the most powerful chizuk. He says you can never judge your situation and make a conclusion that Hashem doesn't want you, Hashem doesn't love you, Hashem doesn't like you, and you have no purpose in life, and that your davening is like just lip service, and you feel that everything you try to do is just so heavy and detached because you feel so far, you feel so physical. So you can't make a conclusion that that's the reality. The reality is I'm just so far, and because I'm so far, so everything is just like hopeless, useless, and there's no actual reason for me to hold on and to try to push forward, because anyways I'm stuck. Anyways, it's a vicious cycle. He says no. Hashem has put you here purposely. He put you here. Hashem. You say, but it's my actions. This is the whole thing of free will. And yet Hashem is in charge. Who decides? Is it my free will or Hashem in charge? It's really both. It's your free will, but Hashem uses your free will to bring you to the place where He wants you to be. It's crazy. It's hard to understand that. But Hashem puts you in a place. He put you in the place. You don't want to be here. You're trying not to be here. But you admit my sins, my transgressions, my lack of doing good brought me in this bad place, and I feel it's a bad place. But it's not a bad place. It's sof ma'aseh. Okay? So what am I supposed to do here? From the sof ma'aseh, Hashem wants you to do a connector. A mitzvah besimcha. You're the sof ma'aseh. What does Hashem want of you? Where you are right now, do a mitzvah besimcha. What will that do? That will join, like we said, the flame, the oil and the wick together. That will inflame the light. That is what will bring the tikkun of machshavat tchila. Okay? So based on this, Rav Nosson explains something amazing. You have in the Kabbalistic structure that we explained of the Keter, we're explaining now, the Keter is considered the highest level, separated between us and Hashem. Okay? So that's all the way up there. It says that even you, where you are down, you also have a separator. You also have on your low level a type of Keter that's all the way down there. What is the Keter that's where you are now? The physicality that you're in. Because what does the Keter do, the ultimate Keter? It pushes you back. It's a wall. It's a Prisa. It's a wall. Okay? So it's a wall for those who are really up there, like let's say the biggest tzaddikim that they're ready to face the infinite light. So it's a wall for them. Okay? That same wall that's for them, that's the Keter, and it's pushing them back at their high level. Also me, on my far challenges, I'm in the low asiyah, what I'm going through is also a Keter at my low level. But what here? Answer is yes. Because every level compared to the level above it is like Keter. In other words, the level above any level below, even if it's the lowest level, when it's relative to the level above it, the level above it is called Keter. Even though it's not. The ultimate Keter is way up there. But for a person's low level, for his struggle, his Keter is all the way down there, yes. Okay? So what's up to him to do? What's up to that person to do is to do whatever he's doing b'simcha. That is the biggest test. That's the biggest test. Because the person figures, look at me, why should I invest any joy into what I'm doing if I don't feel anyways that there's value in what I'm doing? You feel like half-half. You feel half-half. No, not half-half. You feel like 99-1. I feel like 99 points against me that what I'm doing is a waste of time. And maybe one good point, right? That's the test of life. And it's a big test. But it has to be worked on and worked on. And there's a place that Rav Yitzchak Breiter, he writes in one of his, the 7 Pillars of Faith, until you can't accept your situation with joy and serve Hashem as you are with joy, you'll never advance. The secret for advancing is to be able to accept the low situation I am b'simcha. It's an avodah. It's crazy. It can go on for days, for weeks, for months, for years until finally a person gets in. How does a person get in? By accepting the situation and being happy about it. That's a killer for most people. Because why? People have an ambition, want to be up there. I want to be there. I don't want to be here. I want to be up there. And that's what's pushing them to go forward, okay? So they're busy thinking of being there and never appreciative of where they are. It's really hard. It's a trick. He was telling you the secret for that to happen, to get your ambition, is that you have to be able to be happy in this situation that you are stuck in now, to be able to do the mitzvah b'simcha in this situation. If you do that, that's how you transform the wall you're facing into to the biggest light. In other words, the solution is right next to you, but the person is looking far. And it makes sense. His machshava is running. I want the light. I think the light is over there. And it's true, the light is over there. But the way for that to start is that I have to be able to accept the smash back with simcha. In other words, as it is, and then I make good with what I have, and I'm happy about it, that's what will break me through to come through. It's a lesson that we have to go over again and again and again, thousands of times in life, because this pops up every day, not just once. This pops up in life like hundreds of times. It pops up, okay? So this Rav Nosson says something amazing. He says, now he says, this is why a human being, a tzaddik, is greater than an angel. An angel is called a srafim. Srafim omdim. Why are they called srafim? Because they're like a wick that has too much oil. They don't have such good physicality, the angels, right? What happens when the wick is like, there's good oil, but the wick is like weak, like there's too much air pockets, there's too much opening for the oil to go in, so you have a big wick. The angels are called srafim, because they can't contain their light. They can't contain it. That's why they're called srafim. The srafim means to burn. They're soref, they're burning. Hashem doesn't want a human being to be a saraf. That's not your goal. Your goal is not to be on fire. Hashem has angels already on fire. Hashem wants balance. Balance is, like we said, the balance between the wick and the oil making the normal balanced flame. That's what Hashem wants. Hashem doesn't want you to burn too much, and He doesn't want you to burn too little. He wants you to burn just perfect, the right balance. That's what Hashem wants. Okay? He doesn't need people who are burning too high, and also doesn't want people who are burning a little. He wants you to burn properly, burn right. Okay? It's not a goal. Okay, I have to go extreme, and go burning and burning and burning. That's not that's not how that works. Hashem wants you to do what you're doing in proportion. There's an inyan that people feel like they have to catch up in life, have to make up for everything I lost. Okay, even there, Rabbi Nachman says in Chai Moharan, Al tiye paziz. Don't try to be paziz, which means like a person who's trying to, okay, no, have so much to do, yalla. You have to know how to advance, but also with ease. It's not easy. Again, it's easier said than done, but this allows for the flame to burn properly, to have proper infinite light shining, as that person is not running too much, too fast, and also he's not too slow. He's the right balance. Okay, but for that to happen, Hashem makes the wick strong, and if Hashem sees that the wick is too weak, like we said, and there's too much pockets, openings for the oil to go in, it's not good enough. No, it's too much. So He tightens the wick, tightens it more and more and more until the right amount goes in. Okay, so the angels are called Srafim and Tzaddikim. It says the Gemara says that in the future the Tzaddikim, their mechitza will be lifni mi malachi hasharet. That's the wording of Chazal. That in the future, Ka'et Ya'amer, remember the pasuk? Ka'et Ya'amer le'Yaakov u'Yisrael ma pa'al kel. There'll come a time that the angels will ask Hashem, the angels will ask the tzaddikim, what's happening up there? The angels will ask the tzaddikim, because that's what the Gemara says, that their mechitza will be in front of the angels. So Rav Nosson points out, mechitza, what's a mechitza? It's a wall. A mechitza is a wall. Okay? So the mechitza being a wall, meaning that it prevents a person from advancing. That's the whole secret of the tzaddikim, is that they have a mechitza. You hear that? The Prisa, this curtain, is like a mechitza. But that's the whole secret of the Hatzlacha. The mechitza is lifnim mi malachi hasharet, meaning they have a mechitza and it's in front of them. Lifnim, huh?
Even on this world.
Yeah, that's the whole idea. The whole idea is that the tzaddikim in this world dafka, they have mechitzot, and it's their mechitzot, their boundaries, their walls that allow them to perceive even greater than the angels. Even greater than the Srafim. The highest type of Srafim are like the high type of angels. That they're so overwhelmed that they burn out. They disappear because they can't handle the perception. But us, because we're always going in and out. You see, the angels are called Omdim. Srafim Omdim Mima'al. That's the pasuk. The pasuk and Yecheskel says, and the angels, like the vision of Yecheskel, he says Srafim Omdim Mima'al. I think it's in Zechariah or in Yecheskel. The wording is, and the Srafim are standing mima'al. They're standing. Because the angels, that's all, they can only stand, and then they're given this light. We don't stand. We're always in and out. Why? Because we're always trying to work to develop the perfect wick, the perfect balanced wick, that the oil then can go in properly and burn properly, okay? Until that doesn't happen, it's squeezing, maybe it's too tight, too big, too tight, It's a big thing. It's a big thing to have a perfect wick. There's like a history about the olive oil lamp that they started burning by Rabbi Nachman's Keter in 1810. In 1810, a year after Rabbi Nachman, so 1811, 1 year the year that Rabbi Nachman passed away, the Breslovers instituted on Rosh Chodesh Shvat that there should be a 24/7 olive oil lamp by Rabbi Nachman's Keter. Okay, because he speaks about the greatness of a ner tamid made of olive oil. But the problem was that they had many, until today it's a big problem, many people have this difficulty, that having a wick to last like for 7 days or for 30 days and getting the right type of oil and the right type of wick was always a problem. That it burnt out or it burned too much and then it became black, the oil became black, and then there was no more proper fuel nutrients in the oil because you can't burn it anymore if it's so black. Sometimes the oil gets so black that you can't use it anymore. So they worked very hard to develop the proper wick in order that the oil should be balanced and not lose its balance, the olive oil. And they worked very hard to develop the right size of the wick. Sometimes the wick has to be not too thin and not too thick, has to be in between. And like we said, all these factors of the tying and everything of the cords on that. And they had a hard time until they finally developed a good there. And it's also the Ukrainian winter, so it's freezing. It's another factor. When there's too much cold air, so you need a strong fire, strong enough to withstand the cold air coming in, because the flame is using the carbon from the air, and if it's too cold, it's a problem. So it's been a challenge throughout history, throughout like the last 120 years, having a good candle by Rabbi Nachman's kever. This last generation, they've developed all these type of good patents and everything. But to show you that that's how life is. It's a battle of the oil and the wick to burn properly together and to make the right balance in the fire. Okay. So again, this Prisa is the Mesader Me'ashev. And again, Rabbeinu saying it again and again and again, because you have to realize the reason why there's a wall in front of you is to settle your mind. The mind is not settled. The mind being Mesudar and Meyushav is like also making the wick properly. In other words, it's in place. It's not like wobbly. It's nicely coiled around the wick. Okay, so it's Mesudar. And Meyushav means it's not too tight and not too open, but sitting in the right place. Like person sitting down in a seat, Leshev, you sit comfortably. Where we say, are you sitting comfortably? You say, yes. Okay, what do we mean to sit comfortably? That you're not like still moving around, you're not having like something sticking out and from the chair pointing, whatever. You feel good. You have the right balance. When you're sitting in a chair comfortably, that means you're sitting in the right balance. So Benu says, Mesader Me'ashev is like that, the qualities of the wick. That it has to be in the right position, and also not just like the right organization where it is, but also that it's now comfortable and ready to receive. When those two factors are done, that allows for the infinite light to shine in. Shebechinat Keter, Shuparus bein hane'etzalim lebein ha'ma'atzim. Now what's interesting is how Rabbeinu explains Prisa is not the way the commentaries on the Zohar explain Prisa. Rabbeinu's unique in showing that the Prisa is referring to the Keter. They say, each one says something else. First the Atik, Arichan Pin, Zeran Pin, it has all these Kabbalistic terms they're giving. Rabbeinu puts it down and says Prisa, whatever level it may be, it's called the Keter. There's the Keter of Atik, there's the Keter of Arichan Pin, there's the Keter of Zeran Pin, there's the Keter of Malchut. Every level has a Keter in it. Because like we said, Keter is what's separating what's below from what's above. Of that, wherever you're holding, you have something beyond you. At your low level, you're at minus 10. So what's above you? Minus 9. Okay, so that's called the Keter for minus 10. His Keter is minus 9, because that's a level above him. To get there, he has a wall already even for that. Because why? Because it's only through the wall that a person, Bezat Hashem, can pass through. There was one more major point that Rav Nosson mentioned, which was so amazing. I just hope I can remember it. Rav Nosson, in Nefilat Apayim, on this halacha, he wrote a Likutey Moharan discourse. Nefilat Apayim 4, paragraph number 9, he goes into the idea of the Prisa. And this whole idea, how it's now what builds the kelim in life is specifically the setbacks and the wall, the Prisa, the mechitza that you're going through. This is what allows for the light to come in. So again, the point, and it's such an important point, we'll say it again and again and again, that you shouldn't be turned down and broken from all the difficulties you're going through in life. Because all these difficulties are meant to bring you to the right positioning for the wick to finally absorb the right amount of oil and then to burn. Okay? In other words, Hashem is purposely organizing. It's a lot of waiting, it's a lot of davening, and you're just holding on until you're in the right position. And then from that sof ma'aseh where you are, from that low place you're now ready to connect to machshava tchila. And you're going to perceive things that even if you were to just learn Torah for 1,000,000 years, you wouldn't perceive. This is the way to perceive the real deal. You need Torah as a prerequisite for this. Okay? The Torah you're learning is like the oil. Okay? the mitzvah performance, that's the oil. The way you're connecting to God is the oil. Okay? And now the wick is what you're going through. Joining together is simcha that allows it to activate the flame. B'ezrat Hashem. All right. I made it short a bit today. I think we'll stop here because this point is really so powerful, B'ezrat Hashem, and we should know how to activate this thing in our life, B'ezrat Hashem. Okay. Thank you so much for joining. Someone had a point here. Look at this. Someone said here something nice here. He said, before I used to make a ner tamid with a very long wick, and it lasted approximately 12 hours because the wick was damaged. Then I started cutting the wick in half, and now it lasts 24, 36 hours. Hear that? That's nice. That's nice. Thank you for letting us hear that. Wow. B'ezrat Hashem. That was by the way, that was the whole idea of Ner Chanukah. The idea of Ner Chanukah is shining enough light in every amount of darkness, and it's 8 leading up to the 9th chamber. There's always the idea that we didn't go into the 9 chambers that much because Rabbeinu is going to go into the 9 chambers more. We just touched upon it. We didn't even mention 9 chambers at all yet. But there's 8 days of Chanukah as a preparation for the 9th level of B'ezrat Hashem. This we'll go into B'ezrat Hashem. But Chanukah led into now these dark winter nights where things seem like gloomy and dark and everything. And that's the whole idea. The dafka from the darkness, which is sof ma'aseh, the end of the ma'aseh, the machshava tchila. You connect to the B'ezrat Hashem, the beginning of the machshava. You connect. The greatest perceptions you can have in Avodat Hashem is dafka on the winter nights. They say these dark winter nights, believe it or not, are the greatest times that you can perceive the greatest perceptions in your Avodat Hashem. You would think, okay, the month of Nisan, the month of Tishrei, the upbeat months, that's one thing. Greater than that are the winter nights, the dark winter nights. Okay, that's why also they're called Shovavim. We have coming up the weeks of Shovavim, the 6 weeks of Shovavim from Parshat Shmot until Mishpatim, all in the winter, all in like difficult months of Tevet and Shvat, entirely. Okay, all dealing with the bondage in Egypt. Again, bondage in Egypt for what? Why bondage, Hashem? Why punish us with bondage? So it's not a punishment. It's a punishment which is really a reward. The bondage of slavery that you go through in Egypt is to build your wick. That's the ptilim are made from the bondage. Bondage. You're being bounded, like winded and turned and that. All that in order for enough oil to come in and to shine properly, B'ezrat Hashem. So, at one point Rav Nosson mentioned, and I remembered, is that the Gemara says that when the Jews said Naaseh v'nishma, right? When they said Naaseh v'nishma, then the angels came to put 2 crowns on their head, 1 crown for Naaseh and 1 crown for Nishma. So Rav Nosson asks, he says, what's the connection between saying Naaseh v'nishma and getting the crowns? So he says that's the whole thing. The whole way to perceive the Keter is through dafka Naaseh. Naaseh v'nishma is that dafka in this world of Asiyah. The more you're in the world of Asiyah, and from there you try to connect to Hashem, the greater your perception of the Keter. You hear that? It's crazy. In other words, you think, I'm just going to sit down in a Beis Midrash and just learn Torah all day and be in holiness, and that's how I'm going to perceive. He's saying, no. The part of the Torah that's going to get you to perceive is Naaseh v'nishma, which means what? From the Asiyah, you hear this is unbelievable Chidush of Nosson. From the Asiyah, from being so far, so steeped in the physicality, in the Asiyah, in the world of action, from there, Nishma, from there, from where I'm fallen so low, Dafka, from there, I will get to, I will listen, I'll know what to do, to be instructed in mitzvot what to do, and then, Baruch Hashem, that's the way to the Keter. Unbelievable. So that's he explains. That's why when they said Naaseh v'nishma, that's why they got the crowns. Phenomenal. And that's why the Rav Nosson brings us to strengthen this point. That you think what you're going through, when am I ever going to finish Shas? When am I ever going to be a Talmid Chacham? When am I ever going to learn all these books? I bought all these books online. I bought all these Feldheim books, all these art school books, all these Muslim books. When am I going to even open them? I have all these books on my bookshelf. I'm not even learning them, right? So a person thinks, when is it going to be? He doesn't realize that what you're going through, combined with the books eventually, this is what's going to bring you to where you have to be. It's dafka because of what you're going through. And from there, you're going to connect to Hashem. You're going to do Nishma, Naseh, Nishma. That's what activates the Keter from you. So that the point is not to be broken from what you're going through and not to feel that you're not part of the picture. The dafka, what you're going through, is because Hashem wants to shine you the Keter. And I said this on this tour that I went to in America a lot, that today the biggest test of life is that people feel karet. Karet means to be cut off. There are people who are actually chayav karet. They do terrible transgressions that they're liable being excision. It's called excision, being cut off, dying young. But also there's a person who feels karet. He feels disconnected. Hashem doesn't need him. He's useless. He serves no purpose in life. This is the major feeling today. Why? Because the letters of karet is keter, right? So because people feel karet, that is all the more so why today there's more of a necessity, and not just necessity, that's like the only hope now for most people is the keter. Maybe until now, maybe 200, 300 years ago, people can be mistader and be okay with status quo Judaism, and it was enough. Whether it was in Eastern Europe, in North Africa, wherever they were, the standard Torah study and the Torah tradition is what kept the Jews holding on. Today, because we're getting ready for Mashiach, and we have to crown Mashiach with the Keter. Mashiach needs to come with a crown. He's not just come, there's a coronation. There's a coronation of the Keter now. So because the Keter is such an important role in Mashiach's coming, so because of that, we have to prepare for it. And the preparation is throwing people into the status of karet, where they feel cut off totally, in order to force them to try to activate, to run after the Keter, to seek out the Keter. So again, Naaseh v'nishma, they got the Keter. From the Asiya Dafka, from the Shmutz, from there connecting to Hashem. That explains also why I have such weird Judaism today. I have to say that's the only word I can think of. That you look at the shuls 100 years ago, 200 years ago, or how we grew up even. There was normal shuls, normal. Today there's all these like psychedelic, weird minyanim, weird types of Judaism, people doing funny things and everything. On one hand we laugh because it's not authentic, you're not authentic Judaism, you're not the real thing. But on the other hand, you have to understand what's happening here. Is that people are so detached, there's so much karet, okay, that they're expressing their yearning to God from these far places, okay? And it's like you find weird things. Jewish people doing weird things, but sincere. They're trying to connect to Hashem. They don't know how to, okay? And there's no one for them to talk to. And even if there's someone to talk to, the person to talk to can't relate to them. So therefore, there's a blockage, okay? And you feel pity for them because you're laughing. If you would learn halach every day, you would know how to act and how to be and everything. But in the meantime, so what? You put an X on the person? Like, okay, so forget it. Until you get to where I need you to be in order to talk to you, there's no need to talk to you, go. So what do? You can't do that to people today. You can't just put an X on that because of how they are. So, but the thing is, there's so many people, they're so funny, so funky, so weird in their Judaism. Why? Because they're trying to reach out from where they're thrown to such far places, and they're trying to connect to the Keter. So they're doing funny things because they're mamash and sof ma'aseh. They're in the sof ma'aseh. They're mamash in funny areas that you just crack up when you see like this is so weird. This is so not Jewish, so not normal. But we need the patience to realize that this is what's needed. This is the situation, and from there dafka, if they connect to God b'simcha, okay, like I saw in Muncie, you have mikvahs now. There was a mikveh in Muncie, in Pomona. And the mikveh, there's music in the background. Karlebach music, no words. So you're going to the music, the mikveh with meditation. I remember in Masharim 20 years ago, I was just singing to myself in a mikveh here in Masharim, and like the elder Jews were saying, since when do we sing in a mikveh? Since when? And then I see this mikveh in Pomona, and then 3 weeks later here in Yerushalayim, I'm in my mikveh and I see someone singing to himself also in the mikveh. And so what? Okay, you see that things change. Or like the idea of a Karlebach minyan, that people now, for Rosh Chodesh, they take out guitars, violins, tarbukas. You say to yourself, where do we see such a thing of davening in a shul with guitar and music? Come on. But the answer is that's where people are. That's what they need to inspire them. That's what they need to connect. It's funny because it's like wobbly in the parameters of halacha. You say, okay, it's valid, but it's weird. It's not like Jewish, like another Jewish way to do things. But the answer is, but these people, they're so far. That's what they need to connect, and not just far people. Even people who are Hasidic, but they feel empty. Like they said, they feel karet, they feel detached. They need this boost sometimes. So I'm just saying, this is an example I brought of how things are like how they were like 30, 40, 50 years ago, 100 years ago in standard synagogues and everything. And why is it? Because people are detached and they're seeking from wherever they're detached to reconnect. So people will do funny things and act funny in Jewish conduct and it'll look strange, but we have to have patience and accept everybody with simcha because they're trying their best. He's not doing it purposely. That's misken how he was brought up. He's brought up with Star Wars in his head and Superman and all the funky things of the style of the 1980s, 1990s, 2000, all these crazy things, and he's coming from there. So what do you want, misken? You want to have a Jewish ideology? Until he gets there, it's going to take time. Okay? So all this patience is needed because people are on karet mode. Okay, I think we'll stop here. Oof, that was a lot. And Bezat Hashem, hopefully the point what got across. The main thing that comes out of this is doing mitzvot besimcha. From wherever you are, wherever you're thrown to, from there to connect to Hashem, whatever you can do, Bezrat Hashem. I just heard a story today that there was a very big rabbi in Syria, Lanyado, and he was the chief rabbi of Syria, or part of Syria, and he was so careful of not losing time from Torah, Bitul Torah. So whenever there's a levaya, he would just walk 4 steps, part of the levaya, and then go back to learn. Once a very simple Jew passed away, and he walked the whole levaya there and back. They said to him, you were so careful on your time for Torah study, and for this simple Jew, you walked all the way and back. And he said, what can I do? I see pillars of angels on top of his grave. I'm going to just leave them like that. He saw pillars of angels going up and down on top of the body when they're doing the levaya. What was the story about him? This Jew, he knew nothing. All he knew was the first book of Tehillim. So his whole life, he just spent going over saying the whole first book of Tehillim over and over again with such sincerity, because that's all he can do. So he said the angels were like flipping out on his body when there was levaya, and he saw that with his eyes, being a big tzaddik, etc., etc. So he was able to see that, so he couldn't leave the guy down. Just to show you that everything's upside down. Things are mixed up today, especially in Galut. The explanation of exile is that things are mixed up, yes. But now, especially before Mashiach comes, things are even more mixed up. We're mixed up. So therefore, we have to just manage to salvage, to grab whatever we can. Asiyah, mitzvah, simcha. 3 things. You're from the asiyah, from there do a mitzvah, besimcha. That's how you connect sof maaseh b'machshavat. Okay, thank you for joining. All the best, everybody.